Okay, morning everyone. This is Sam and Rahul. We're gonna quickly go over some pull requests on website one. See if we can merge them in.
Nice one.
So before we jump onto Michael, maybe I can just push the. I'm just gonna share my screen here. And, perhaps I can just push Sampriti's code to production.
You could do. I was just going to say, and I'm just going to.
Oh, you want us to review Michael's first?
Well, no. I just the Sampriti's one. I was just looking at the code here for it. This is more like a reminder to me that sort of since it was going through, I'm just trying to get more involved in the code generally.
Yeah.
Just to have a look at the code, and it's certainly, you know, for clearing up this messy fix, you know, or this issue, it seems like a not unreasonable, you know, short-term fix. And obviously you merged it in, and we've got some, you know, tests associated with it. And I guess, do we have cucumber tests in website one as well?
We do.
Right, but I guess this is it's just part of the service, so that makes sense. I mean, the only thing that I would possibly comment here on the code is that we're kind of reaching in. There's sort of, are you familiar with the Demeter principle?
Not particularly. I've heard about it, but
which basically says that the Demeter principle says that this is the law of Demeter, basically says that we should try and avoid reaching too far into other pieces of, you know, other objects things. So there's kind of, what we've got here is that we've got this is our Slack service, and it's receiving a Hangout entity, and then it's going to the Hangout URL, and it's asking that if it's blank.
Okay.
So there's an argument to say here that this is kind of a Demeter violation, in that we're kind of, you know, we're reaching we have too much knowledge about the internals of the other object.
I see.
Do you know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Not entirely. I haven't had time to go through like the entire principle and what it entails exactly, and but
yeah,
started reading through some of the solid principles and a few days ago. So hopefully, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to extend my knowledge of those principles. You know, to make more clean code and stuff like that.
Indeed. Yes. Now, so I guess you took the 169 course, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Yes. And I think Amanda does mention the Demeter principle.
He does mention all this.
But it's not necessarily kind of gone to in great detail. And I don't want to slow down our process here, but I thought it was just an interesting opportunity here just to look at this.
And again, at the time when I was taking the 169 course, all of that didn't make sense to me at all.
Well, and that's I think that's what the exciting thing that Agile Ventures can do, is start to take all of those things and see them in the context of a real project, and the interplay of, you know, we need to fix this. This has been like an annoying bug that's been going on for like several weeks. And so it's an interesting question here, because it's sort of, Ruby allows us to write this really quite, you know, terse code. Like, it's kind of, you know, this Hangout, what I'm particularly interested to do here is to try and find out this Hangout, is that a model we've got here? It's like, I'm like, the key thing that can I find, I don't want to find usages. Can I go to performance, go to declaration? It's going to be that one. Can I go to implementation? Like, I guess if I look for post Hangout notification, and we find the usages of that, where it's actually called. So it's called there in the spec, and the Hangout. Okay, so the Hangout is an event instance. And an event instance here, okay, so this is actually something in the, it's in Active Record. And so the event, and if we have a look at the schema, so that's the event instances. So right, so it has a Hangout URL. Interesting. And so if we go back to here, so we can see the thing that, and this is, I haven't got the branch out particularly, but what Sampriti's doing in the code there, he's doing return, you know, if Hangout dot, and then it's what is it, Hangout URL?
Hangout URL.
Yeah. Why isn't that? anyway, hangout URL dot and then blank. And so it's the kind of thing like we're not reaching in and we're not manipulating the state of this other object. We're just asking a question about it. But it's yeah. I mean, I think in this instance we should probably let it go. That if we were being really strict about it, we might be saying that rather than having that we should actually have a method which would be here like hangout blank like this, and then we would call like hangout URL blank like that, which might seem like needlessly obtuse. It's kind of like, well, we've just replaced this and this, but it's sort of I mean, you can see that there are other methods here, you see, that have been where we've got live and duration and so on there, that are simple manipulations of this. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of like, does that make a bit more
kind of
sense?
make more sense now.
So the interesting thing there would be whether we would argue that this, I mean, when you see the two dots like that, it's pretty much or particularly something like if we were to see like this, that's generally kind of a warning sign that this entity here, which is this Slack service, is kind of reaching in too far. It's too tightly coupled to the way in which the underlying system works. Do you know what I mean? Or the way in which the collaborator object works. But here, I find myself very on the fence here. It's kind of like this just, in terms of like clearly this one, that's a big win in terms of readability, right?
Yeah, definitely.
There's not actually much different. Like if we just change that to this, I mean, or even like there's not a big readability win like that. That's even actually made it more obscure. I mean, if we called it Hangout there, even if we've got, but it feels like we're probably mucking around with little things. So it's if you're okay with it, I guess we kind of will maybe leave it. That's interesting up here. This one's got YT video ID blank. So,
it's a YouTube video ID.
Right. And then if we look again at the schema, right. So we've got YT video ID. Yes. And then you could almost imagine, and I'm just maybe being silly here. And this is the point where you can say, Sam, just stop, because I don't want to hear this. Because I'll just go on chatting about code, indefinitely. But so what it could be doing here is we could have something like this, where we would have like this, and then we could be sending. Oh no, it would be. I wonder if we do. I don't know. It would be send. I do it like this. Maybe I'm making and then do like that. Which would sort of then. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably not well. Does that? How does that look? Does that look really ugly to you? How does that look?
So then we'll just in the object we'll just pass the field, whether it's hangout URL or.
Sorry, it should be this one.
The YouTube ID.
Yeah. It would be like this. So what we would be doing is we'd be making the ability to ask. Yeah, in each case we'll return if, and then here it would be. So it would be Hangouts blank question mark, and then what we have in there, this would be Hangout URL, that, and then this one could be YT video ID, like that. Which I'm almost just tempted to sort of show that to somebody. Just, I mean, I don't. We certainly shouldn't stop. I think we should roll this out. But I think it's an interesting question about, that there's sort of like a minor refactoring that could be done.
Yeah.
And then of course the things we're looking at is, how readable is this compared to other things?
Compared to what we had before.
People had, and arguably this provides, a kind of, we're less locked to if we look at the code here, this relies upon Hangout as an entity having a thing that
Hangout,
returns
yeah.
something but like if we think about this not in terms of like what the actual Hangout coming is, but if we think about it in terms of like this Slack service potentially, you know, could be completely independent, and we would use it in something that wasn't even a Rails app. So the thing coming in we don't want to obviously lock it to being an active record thing coming in. But so what we've got here with these two dots is we've got a relatively involved way of describing how this Hangout must behave in order to work with this service. Do you know what I mean? The Hangout must expose a method that returns something that itself can respond to the method blank.
Blank, yeah.
Whereas in this case, we're saying, okay, Hangout just has to expose a method called blank that you know, takes an argument and returns true or false. And the difference might seem sort of subtle, but it's, I guess there's a sort of rule of thumb that says this approach is probably better. Anyway, so I think I'm just, and this is the danger for me, is maybe even mentioning it here now. Like, because I'm pretty, since I started thinking about it, I can't help myself from saying it. And maybe this is where I will be, you know, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And maybe like, but since I've now wasted this time, or I put this exciting. I don't know. I'm hoping, you know, when I appeal to the higher authorities, I'll say, well, I felt, you know, Raoul might have been interested in this, and you know, Your Honor, and he didn't seem to complain too strenuously. And anyway.
It's actually interesting. Like I've never been through such high level, if I can say, refactoring. So as I mentioned earlier on, it's an area that I'm currently exploring to sort of like improve my knowledge of the language. You know? So it's definitely interesting to see such thinking. You know.
Yeah. Good to hear it. So I think, yeah, we should definitely get on and push it in. But exactly these kind of discussions are going on, you know, in local support and so on. And it's this whole service thing. It's about how tightly is the service coupled to the other things and this, that, and the other. So yeah, cool beans. Right. Yeah. Cool. So I've added that, and we'll see if we have a discussion with somebody, and somebody might have a good argument for why that's completely insane, which is, we will see. So yes, do you want to? Yes. Sorry to take up the airtime, but yeah, do you want to push this out to production?
So I'm just going to create a quick pull request to master. Right. So we want to take staging. Oh, and it'll also include the bit of code that Alejandro pushed last time.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, and there also seem to be a lot of older commits from Thomas that were in there, or merges or whatever. But is that
so? That's the mistake I made yesterday. Is that when I was creating the first pull request, I made from develop to master rather than staging, and I by mistake clicked on the update button because GitHub was complaining that they're not in sync, and I click on the update button, and what it did, it pulled all those merging commit message into develop. So that's why we have all of those in that pull request. Yeah. So, right. So staging to master, and we create the pull request. Okay. And you're gonna merge this.
By the way, have you used Hub before?
Hub. Yes, I use it locally on my machine, but I never used it to make pull requests from the command line. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to show you on my like just for if I was to do the same thing that you just did on the interface here. If I just stash the things I was just doing here, and if I git checkout develop. If I wanted to git pull origin, if I wanted to make a pull request from develop to staging, what I would, actually I don't even know if I need to update it, but I could be doing hub pull request, and then minus there to staging.
Okay.
And then that's from within this. Yeah, I need to develop, and then I can say deploy to staging.
Oh, I see. Then it's going to do the very same thing I'm doing.
So we'll do the same thing. So just something to consider.
Okay.
I know it's taken me a while to get comfortable with doing the hub pull requests, but they're once you get the habit, it's difficult to give them up.
So
yeah.
I'll try that on the tiny projects that I'm working on, and once I'm comfortable with it, then I'll start doing it on the other stuff. Yeah.
That sounds exactly the way to go. Good show.
Cool. So we're merging this, and right, the CI is going to pull that, make a build, and deploy.
Yeah. So yeah, we just wait and check later on. Cool.
Yeah. So in the meantime, we can just have a look at.
Yeah. Well, I'm just looking at the waffle. Yeah. Just looking at the waffle boards. I'm trying to look at the waffle board because it's one of its. There we go. Is the interesting. So I hadn't realized how we could do. We could kind of close. We could in principle associate pull requests from one repo with another. So you can see here in progress thing here. So this 771 here, which is now being merged, we've got that. I added this thing to say that the issue about what the Agile bot was doing was specifically on the. I raised it on the Agile bot repo rather than on the website one repo.
Website one repo.
Excuse me. But so the interesting thing is this has merged this, but it hasn't now. It hasn't.
It didn't move it to.
It didn't move it. So it seems like that cross repo thing doesn't work.
Perhaps it's because it's not. It's still. I just merged it to master. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah, ooh.
Because it considers the main branch, and that's what it's going to use for.
But I think we've got the main branch in website one set to be develop, haven't we? If we look at the
develop.
Yeah, like if we look at the branches. Oh no, we've got default branches develop.
Okay.
So it could have been that, but I think when I reloaded this page, you'd already merged it. So I think it's. But I might just ask in the waffle people. Hi there. I notice we can associate pull requests with issues in other repos, but merging them does not seem to close issues on other repos. Is that right? So I'll just pop that in for waffle. Yeah, so that's done. So then we can come into reviewing the pull request from Michael. So we've got now. Why is there two of these things? So this one, this was his experimental one previously. And then this is the one there. So had you looked at this at all already?
I was about to pull that locally on my computer.
Yeah. Should we both do that? I think I was maybe in the process of pulling it locally. Should we both do that together and just do that in parallel?
Sure.
Yep.
All right.
It's interesting that Michael was saying that I think everything is green on his machine. I think he's on Ubuntu, but Sampriti was saying so. I mean, you're on the Mac, right? I don't know what Sampriti's on, but you guys are consistently get one particular kind of.
Sampriti's using Linux, I think.
Okay, but both of you get kind of a consistent failure locally on the test that you ignore. I mean, it passes on CI, but
it passes on CI, but then on local it fails all the time. Maybe I should have a session with Michael to have a look at why it could be passing on his side.
And what machine are you on? You're
on a Mac, yeah.
Yeah, and what version of what you on El Capitan or
El Capitan, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And through here, I can, that's website 1. I should just run the Rails server locally here.
So I'm just running the test on my side as well.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, recently, I seem to be able to run 2 repos. Like if I in the past, if I tried to start up, maybe that's just like a local sport website one thing. But it's funny. Like I seem to be able to like if I guess it's here. If I run Rails here, I think like website 1 has like a setting because when I do Rails with local support, it goes to like localhost 3000. Whereas when I do it with website 1, it goes to 000. I guess it's partly because it's doing Puma. But the thing is that Puma then doesn't seem to conflict with the existing thing. And so like, I go to localhost 3000, and instead of getting website 1, I get local support, which is kind of, but then I shut down. It's like they're both running on the same port, but they don't. It doesn't complain, you know, like it used to.
Well, this is weird. Like localhost and 000 are supposed to be kind of like the same thing.
They are indeed, but
so
somehow
it should
I don't
complain about
you would have thought, yes. I've been very surprised that it hasn't. But so I guess I need to log in here because I don't have any events. Hey, Sam, pretty.
You just joined in early on and dropped again. So
oh right, yeah, maybe
connection issue.
Hey, Sam, pretty. Hi there. I might just mute you if you haven't got audio because it's a bit crackly. Hi there. Let me log in. I was thinking about it. Wait. Okay. Anyway, okay. So my RSpecs are.
You have Michael's changes already.
I believe so here. Yeah, I have Michael's changes. Just going to run the cucumbers. All stuff I want to get clean out of the log here. Yeah, I mean, if a machine can. Let's anyway. While that's all going on, let's actually have a look at the code changes themselves. So we've got the event helper now has a format local time. That seems perfectly reasonable. Yep, that all looks reasonable. We've got application.rb. The config is now
what define does in the environment variables in Heroku already.
Yeah, I mean this may be. I think this may be necessary for the tests. I mean the
pass.
Yes, although I'm a bit like, does it need to be an application for all of them, or should this be like in? Because if we go to website 1,
we have a certain file in the config directory. I don't remember the exact name, but we use a certain gem for these environment variables, so we could put it there. I don't remember what that was. It's in the settings, I think. Config/settings.
Right. But the thing I'm particularly thinking is that we don't necessarily want this for the production environment. I mean, this has gone into application RB when maybe it should be going into production or for test RB if it's specifically for the tests to pass. And he's got a test there, and we've got the event helper spec, and then we've got a view spec as well. Okay, interesting. And I guess we have. Do we have? I guess we do have a lot of view specs in website 1. It's the kind of thing that.
Yeah, we have a lot of view specs, and although I think at some point we made a decision to stop writing view specs and relying on Cucumber mainly.
I think that's definitely the way to go. I want to try and remove all the view specs from local support. Okay, so my Cucumber tests there are still running. I'm unable to run this site locally, or at least log into it. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Oh, are you unable to log into it?
It's just being really. I mean, at the moment, it's being really slow. I might just restart the server there.
So my cucumbers are almost done.
No, I've got to the sign-in page this time. Okay. So then, basically, we need an event. Now, the thing is, I'm in UTC, so I guess it's all I can see is, that's my local time, so there's no difference to me.
Okay, so here's one thing you can try. Have you used ngrok before?
Use what? Sorry, ngrok?
Yes.
Yeah, once or twice.
So you could probably share that instance of your application, and I could run it on my side and see what it says.
Okay. Well, yes, that's a possibility. I was going to say, I mean, so my cucumber, I've got these two failures. Are these the failures that you regularly get?
Hangout. No.
Like placeholder iframe.
No. 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 Those are not the ones. Check on
It's in the documents and feature file. The ones with the Mercury editor tests.
Yeah, it's on the project's features, the one that have to do with Mercury.
Right. Okay.
So if you have a look at my side here, you'll see there's those one that failed.
So you're getting project features 182. Those passes for me, interestingly.
Pass.
Huh? Yeah, I haven't got a failure on that one. My failures are Hangout feature 25. So create a Hangout for a Scrum event. I mean, these look like, these are like, they're unable to find CSS. These look like, they look like JavaScript timing issues to me. I mean, they're both in the same place, so they're in Hangout. They're desktop definitions, Hangout steps, RB2, and here, yeah. So I think actually we could probably, yeah. So like there's a new thing with Capybara. So what it should really be is we should be doing expect page to have CSS like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think. And that's interesting there. I mean, I'd need to restructure it. I mean, I guess it's doing a thing here. We're expecting the source itself to, but, well, we would probably, if we want to do, actually, we could probably do it with a combination, like if we did this first, like it would, because what it needs to do is it needs to block and wait for this thing to be present and then check for this thing, because this one I don't think will do any waiting for the page to change. So we could, in principle, just test that quickly here. But yeah, let me set up ngrok. Have I got ngrok in there? No, brew install ngrok. Yeah, but
still fails.
Still fails. Okay.
Sempre theme just suggested something.
Yeah, well, that's another possibility, but I think that well, that's assuming that it is a JavaScript timing issue. If this is not working, making it more specific, I think is probably unlikely to make a difference. Not that we necessarily have to fix this test as part of reviewing Michael's code.
Well, and that is passing here on my side.
And it's passing on your side. I mean, I think we've got, yeah, we need to lock down some. I mean, the one that your one fails on, this one that you said it's, what does it relate to? The one that your fails on?
I'm just gonna paste that in the chat. It's projects.feature 182.
Right. You just want to go back to your screen and show me the failing error message?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at like what step definition is it failing on there. It's about whether it sees the flash or not. So
Yeah.
that one could also be. So I mean, you could go in there and have a look at that basic steps 175 there in your code locally. This is on Michael's PR branch. But I sort of assume these errors are, well, I think I certainly was having two very similar errors just generally on develop, and I think, Raoul, what you're saying. So where's there? Oh, okay. So actually, so that one it does have expect page to have CSS. That is in the right form. That would, in principle, wait for things. So I don't know what that one's about. And like just expecting this in the debugger, I can't even see what necessarily the body is on. But so. So what's the thing? So if I want to give this ngrok, if I want to do, so I need to have the server running for the ngrok.
You need to have the server running.
Yeah, and then
you open in a terminal. You do ngrok space HTTP and the port where the application is running.
Just that?
Yeah, just that.
Tunnel. You may only specify one port to tunnel to on the command line. Got to. Oh, does it need to be HTTP like :3000 or something?
No, it's just like ngrok 3000. You don't need to specify HTTP.
HTTP. Okay.
Okay.
It's on. So if I give this to you,
I'll be able to access
Raoul, you should be able to have a look at it. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'm getting like a poltergeist timeout here. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if we would ideally have Puffing Billy in.
Did you create an event on the?
Yeah, I did. There should be just one single event. It may have gone past now. Actually, it didn't repeat, so I might need to update the. So there you go.
Time.
Oh, okay, there you go. So it starts at 11:35 a.m.
Which is my time. Yeah. That's fine. It works.
That's great. Do you want to try creating an event there?
Sure. Just need to log in first.
Yeah.
You said you don't have a random user working.
I haven't tried to. Well, it might be. I haven't tried logging in with the random user. There may be. I don't know. I haven't necessarily run rake dbc. I don't know. You could try. Yeah.
No,
I mean, if you click GitHub, will it let you click GitHub? It may not.
Shoot. Huh.
Oh, there you go.
Weird.
Yeah. So yeah, try creating an event. I mean, I think Michael said this is just about displaying the thing, and there's like he wants to.
Okay. The good thing is all the times I test.
Yeah, that's you're now on your local. It's redirected you to local host though. So this is on your one, but yeah, certainly it's showing all of those the seeded events. I mean, certainly it's looking like,
So this is on my side.
Yeah. It's certainly. I think we've got, that seems to be working. I mean, I think the sanity check that we would do now. I mean, I'm kind of would be just to check out develop. Yeah, and then for me to I've modified the Hangout steps. Let's just get stash, and then run that cucumber feature and just see if this passes. I mean that failure that you've got, the project feature failure. that passes. That's one that always fails for you.
Yeah, it always fails for me.
Oh, okay, right. So you should create a ticket for that. Now, interestingly, this one fails for me. This again, even on develop, which is that's what I want to see. Basically, these are, I think, just a pair that are failing for me, that are peculiar to my setup. And if it's passing in CI, I would say that's looking pretty good from Michael's code. Really, would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, really, the only thing that he's introduced here is this. You know, this looks all perfectly fine, doesn't it? It's the only thing I guess I would be concerned about here is the presence of this in the application.rb, and can we move that to? Because it just seems that that's, you know, that I mean, maybe it's going to get overridden by, you know, somebody is saying those like settings or sorry, like you were saying it on Heroku or what have you. But so you were talking about these this setting stuff, like this settings.yaml. Is this is like done on every instance independently of production, develop, or test? Is this what's pulling this in? Is
do we have a gem?
I mean, I guess settings is just it's setting a right. I guess so. This gem, is there a settings gem?
Nope, we don't. So I think the setting will still pull from a .env file if you have one.
Okay, look, we've got, and in fact we've got here like a settings YAML, and there's a development, production, and test.
Because if you have a look at settings.yaml down there, the Hangout session is still looking for a Hangout app ID from the env file, from the environment variables. So I think this is just so that we can make use of these variable in code, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In a you know, rather than hard coding it to the environment there. Yes, I mean, so what that makes me wonder, if we go, so what Michael has done is he's dropped that into there. In principle, we could take that out of there,
and it should still work.
Well, I think he was saying that it's needed.
Is it?
Well, I thought he was saying that the test wouldn't pass without it. So I was going to like try and do this. Because I think well, it may be needed. No, I think it may be, because what it is that in order for the, I think I might be completely wrong. Is that let me back up. What was I saying? Yeah, I thought what it was is that for the Capybara browser to actually behave like it's in a different time zone, it has to have the Capybara browser looks out to the environment setting.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I mean, now I guess rather than running all the tests, I should run. So then that I might be wrong. That might be an earlier thing, and he's maybe rolled back to it. But so if we look at if it says feature events feature. Let's just run that whole feature.
Cucumber.
So what I've done here is I've experimentally moved that out of application RB and moved that into the environment test RB. And things do still pass there. So I guess.
What if we remove it from there?
Well, that's a good thing. Is it required at all? And see.
Okay, so I'm gonna remove it from my side and test it as well. Since I'm in a different time zone.
I know. Well, if that fails,
it fails.
It fails for me. So specifically, okay. I think. Yeah.
It has to be there.
I think so. Yeah. So I think I'm going to suggest to the thing to do here is say. Where's it gone? Lost it. There it is.
There.
Could this be in? So, or is it config environments test RB? Config environments test.rb. I try, and well, the other interesting thing is then is also to run the bigger set of tests. If I put it back in, have oh no, I don't want to run. No, stop. Where's my format podcast? We could go to here. I moved it there, and your test still passed. We only need this for the test environment. And I guess, I mean, we could be waiting for that to go. So I mean, I think we're kind of pretty much done, aren't we, Raoul? And this will be a huge, lovely, simple change. I mean, Michael, I think, obviously had to get into, various ice cube and messy things or whatever in the process. But this will be, it's interesting thinking about the bigger picture on the project. Tony Butler, Free Ranger, lots and lots of ideas. I mean, there's all sorts of different directions we could go in. Maybe the long-term vision is important. However, I think that in the short term, just fixing a few little pain points like this are kind of, valuable things to do to just kind of like remove some of the friction in terms of the way in which people interact with the system, and we can sort of polish our process and so on and so forth. Yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, this will improve a bit of the workflow for users coming in through the website.
A new event, Raul, do you get the event time setting in UTC or your local time zone?
The settings are in UTC, I think. Let me double check that.
No, like wait, when you're creating a new event.
Yeah, that's what I want to check now.
At the moment, I think they are UTC, and that's UTC. Another thing. So I think Michael was saying the next thing he'd like to do is change it so that you can set the start time in your own
time zone.
And I think that's he's absolutely right. It'll be a huge win to have both those things. I mean, I think particularly from the perspective of the people coming in from the MOOC and wanting to it's a real pain to have to calculate in your head the change like that.
Time offset.
Yeah, and so Raoul, going forward in terms of you and I, kind of joint project management seems to be working reasonably well so far. Yeah, I guess we'll both just keep an eye out on pull requests and the process. And you were saying that the that sort of kickoff time on Wednesday is a reasonable time for you.
Yeah, it's all right for me. Can make it.
Yeah. So what I was then thinking is what I might do is draw your attention to the retrospective document. So I'm kind of like in local support at the moment. I'm running a retrospective on Fridays and a kickoff on Mondays, and they're sort of two separate events. And there's some advantage in that in terms of, it creates a separate space for the retrospective where you're not trying to plan the next week and, and so on. I don't know that, obviously you're quite time constrained. I don't know that we have the luxury of.
So in terms of time, I'll have my full timetable sorted out at the end of this month. At the end of this month,
you'll have your full-time what?
My full timetable in terms of all the activities that I have to do. Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
Based on that, I'll be able to decide how much time I can actually give to Agile Ventures for meetings and things like that. So right now it's a bit blurry at the moment, and I don't want to make any commitment that I'm not gonna.
Absolutely, and that's totally fine, and that's partly, and it's because I realize that I'm, I don't want to create like a separate retrospective meeting. I'm thinking let's just sort of focus in this single meeting on the Wednesday, and so in order to do that, it's kind of this we do the retrospective asynchronously, which is, so I've got this Google Doc which is in the website one channel for you.
I just saw that.
Yeah, and also Sanpretty, of course. So basically, what I would imagine, or what I propose, is, if we all put a few things in that document whenever we have a moment, then just at the beginning of the kickoff meeting on Wednesday, we won't necessarily spend too long on it, but we'll just quickly review those items. I think it's valuable to do that because just on the spot in the meeting, you don't necessarily remember all the things that you were like, and it's good to get them out in a list when you're not competing for airtime. So.
Cool.
What time is the meeting tomorrow? With the kickoff
That's
meeting?
a good question.
It's 4:15. It was 4:15 last week. UTC.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've got it on a repeating thing in the thing. So if it was 4:15 last week. Yeah,
that's perfect. Because usually website one meetings are late into the night for me, like at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. So
okay. Sure.
This is like 9 p.m. so that should be fine.
Great. Website one, weekly kickoff. 4:15 UTC. Yeah. Well, and once we've deployed this thing from Michael, it'll be telling us people will know when the meetings are. Maybe we'll suddenly see a huge spike in people attending meetings, so they'll know when they are.
So should we wait for Michael to then make that small change and then I can merge it as soon as?
Yeah, and I noticed that basically now all of the other tests have passed for me, with the exception of those two that are basically failing for me. I guess I might just sort of just create a ticket for those. Yeah, it's an interesting question there because this is obviously such a trivial change, and we've checked that it works. Your test.
So I also made the change locally on my side, and it all works except for that project feature that was failing before.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing here is that if we had access to Michael's thing here, we could just make that change and push it through, and that would be, in the interest of delivering something as quickly as possible. I guess I would say we shouldn't be in such a rush, and maybe let's give, because I think the advantage of letting Michael make the change is that then he's able to kind of absorb all the information. It slows the process down a little bit, but I think probably in a distributed team, it's probably I think that's probably the way to go. But we may want to review that in future. We could be giving, ultimately Michael seems like a really reliable guy. If he had access, we could have him working on feature branches within the main repo. And anyway, actually, I think we've given him access.
That's definitely something we can talk about tomorrow as well. The whole process of accepting pull requests. When we get a pull request, what is the protocol to follow? Because I think previously it was Thomas and Brian who had to look at that, and if they both agreed, then it was kind of merged in. For the past month, I was kind of doing it on my own. So maybe that's something we can also discuss tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, good show. Okay, I'm just gonna do open a ticket for that.
The project one.
Just so we have a record of what the failure feature is and the error message. just going to pop that there into the backlog. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, and then I put that comment in for Michael, and that should show up in the. It shows up there. Interesting. Does that not show up in the waffle board?
I don't think it will.
Yeah, because that's the pull request there. It's 772. Yeah.
You have to make a. I don't think they pull line comments.
They don't. I'll just put in overall looks great. Lupus, Direl, and I both checked. Just see minor comment about config above. Okay, excellent. And yeah. So I'm all green and clean, sort of. There. Good show. All right. Well, I'm going to go and make a cup of tea and get on with some other things. Great seeing you both.
Thanks for time. Yeah.
Pleasure. Great to. And if you're, at some point in the future, if you want to talk more about, the other stuff we were talking about, I'm I guess what am I saying? Be brief, Sam. What I'm saying is, you should now know that you can basically set me off talking about different little Ruby code things anytime you want. So just
okay.
Feel free to push that button if you want to, but also don't push the button if you don't want to. Okay, good stuff.
So I got the Sandy Mates book.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go through that and yeah.
Cool. Yeah, nice one. Oh, that sounds like Sam Pretty. You want to chat to Raoul? Raoul, have you got any time?
Stop the broadcasting and we can discuss.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the broadcast to end because I have some questions about waffle.
Okay. Is it about waffle?
What's the difference between please check and in progress? Like, I noticed that the local time story wasn't please check.
Yeah. So since I created that column, in progress means that people are currently working on. So I mean, if we have more time today, we could be looking at these other in progress things. But they're basically saying in progress is like, you can comment if you want, but it's basically I haven't really finished. Whereas please check is kind of like quality assurance. It's like Michael had said, I've finished this activity. Please. It's like please check is like please check, and then if you're an admin, merge it in potentially. So does that make sense for those columns, Sam Pretty?
Yes. Do you need to move a issue manually into please check, or is this done automatically somehow?
Well, I have had previous projects where it's been set up so that when you when you make a pull request, it goes into please check. But I get the settings that we have at the moment. I think at the moment you would need to pull it manually. The settings we have at the moment is that if you do a pull request, it goes into in progress. I guess we could, like work started comes if you create a branch that. Yeah, I guess the setup that we had actually in Makers Academy was that when you opened a pull request, would it move it into there? Well, yeah, I think it would. So I think we need to. That's something we need to consider, like exactly this layout, and perhaps it's something we should get into in the kickoff tomorrow.
Okay.
At the moment, I won't change anything. At the moment, I think it's yes. At the moment, you would have to move it manually into please check before it would start to be checked.
What is up for grabs? Like, it's the same thing as being ready, right? Like, ready to be worked on?
Yes, but it also means that it's like up for grabs is a kind of indication that this is something that anybody should feel free to work on. There's this up for grabs site.
And by the way, we got merged in yesterday, so we should be on the website now.
Look. Yes, there we go. Look, so we're here, and then so this is sort of saying we're sort of saying to the open source community, these are things that are relatively freestanding that you could work on yourself.
There is.
Yeah. So like there are things. So for example, here, like set up the payment framework. you know, that's kind of like a big thing with probably quite a lot of work and so on. So we wouldn't be saying out to the general open source community, you know, do that for us. I mean, I guess they could, but it's sort of, you know, does that make sense there?
Yeah, and ready is like the current iteration, and backlog is like the backlog in Pivot Tracker.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, in some, yeah, ready is kind of current, and then backlog is the backlog. I mean, the backlog is sort of, you know, / icebox, basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's. Yeah, go on.
Oh, just I was going to say, like, I mean, I think in the ideal world, what one does is the, you know, the ready one, you maybe that becomes, you have that's like the current sprint. You know, I mean, and we can change, you know, we can change all of these, like, so the project settings columns there, we can change all of the names of these to whatever we want, and we can change where, you know, how there's some automated movement between different things, so we can sort of, in some ways, the key thing to do is, you know, through the kickoff meetings and chats, is work out a flow and naming and terminology that we're comfortable with.
Okay.
Any other questions, Sam?
I'm just looking at the different issues. I think like the integration with GitHub pull requests is pretty sweet. So
yeah,
that's enough for me to move over from Pivot.
Yes. Well, we can review what everybody thinks again tomorrow, and it's even, you know, we started this. You know, I think we can try it for a couple more weeks, and we can always switch back if we're not happy with it. But yeah, cool.
Yeah. All right.
Nice one. All right, thanks, guys. I guess I'm gonna go get some tea. Oh, no, I'll turn the computer off.
All right, cool. You guys have a good